Welcome to Wild HOA Situations. The HOA wanted control, not safety. My name is Marcus, and I am standing in front of my townhouse in Burlington, Vermont at 7:15 in the morning, with a car key fob clenched in my fist, watching Tiffany Kelly snap on a pair of rubber gloves like she is about to perform surgery on my bank account. "You do not shovel to my standard, you pay to my standard," she says, her breath making frost clouds in the air. The violation notice in her other hand is already filled out. The fine is $250. The tow truck, she informs me, is on standby if I do not comply within the hour. I moved to Burlington 6 months ago because the rent was cheaper than Boston, and I could keep sending money back to my mother in Pennsylvania while I built my freelance photography business. I own actual camera gear, the kind that pays bills, and I thought a quiet neighborhood would give me the space to work. The Harborview Coldfront Landing Association had other ideas. This place runs on forms. Every request requires a form. Every form requires another form. Every violation requires a hearing, and every hearing requires a written appeal, and every appeal requires a fee. Tiffany Kelly is the Special Assessment Coordinator, which means she can invent a new charge faster than I can shovel snow. This morning, the charge is ice remediation failure. The ice in question is a row of frozen chunks left by the HOA's own Plow service, which came through at 4 in the morning and shoved half a snowbank onto my sidewalk. Now, Tiffany is telling me I should have broken up the ice immediately, and because I did not, I am in violation of the winter maintenance addendum. I was out here at 6:30, I say. I shoveled everything I could shovel. Tiffany shakes her head. The Plow contract specifies resident follow-up within 2 hours of service. You had until 6. It is now 7:15. The Plow came at 4. Then you should have been out here at 5:59, she says, and she pulls a laminated notice from her coat pocket. It is a quiet hours notice, the kind the HOA posts every winter to remind residents that snowblowers are not allowed before 7. I recognize the signature at the bottom because I have seen it on every piece of paper that has come through my mailbox in the last 6 months. So I cannot use a snowblower before 7, but I am supposed to break up ice chunks before 6, I say. Correct, Tiffany says. You can use a shovel quietly. I look at the chunks. Each one is the size of a cinder block frozen solid by the overnight temperature drop. Breaking them up quietly would require a pickaxe and about 3 hours. This is impossible, I say. Then you should have hired a service, Tiffany says. Or moved somewhere with lower standards. She hands me the violation notice. The fine is due in 10 days. If I do not pay, the HOA will place a lien on my property. If I try to dispute it, I will need to file a written appeal, which requires a $50 processing fee and a hearing date that will not be available for 6 weeks. By then, the lien will have accrued interest. I let her think I am cornered, because my trump card needed her to overreach. I take the notice. I fold it carefully. I do not argue. Tiffany watches me with the kind of satisfaction that comes from believing she has won before the game even started. You have a good day, Marcus, she says, and she walks back toward her own unit, her boots crunching on the snow she did not have to shovel because her driveway faces south and melts faster. I stand there for a moment, holding the notice, watching her go. Then I pull out my phone and take 3 photos. One of the ice chunks, one of the snowbank, one of the Plow service invoice sitting on my passenger seat, the one Tiffany photographed yesterday when she walked past my car and decided it counted as illegal advertising because the company name was visible through the window. That invoice is about to become a problem for her, but she does not know it yet. I go inside. I make coffee. I sit down at my desk and I pull up the folder I have been building since November, when Tiffany first decided I was her new project. It contains photos, emails, and certified mail receipts. The receipts are the important part. Every time Tiffany has issued a violation, I have cured it within the required time frame and sent proof via certified mail to the HOA management company. Every time, the HOA has fined me anyway. The receipts prove they received my corrections. The fines prove they did not care. I also have a comparison photo set showing 12 other sidewalks in the neighborhood, all of them worse than mine, none of them fined. I took the photos 2 weeks ago during a snow squall, right after Tiffany hit me with a $100 fine for a patch of ice the size of a dinner plate. The other sidewalks had ice patches the size of coffee tables. No violations, no fines. The problem is that Tiffany controls the meeting agendas. She writes the minutes. She decides what gets recorded and what gets forgotten. If I show up to a hearing with my evidence, she will smile and nod and take notes, and then the minutes will say I failed to provide adequate documentation. 2 months ago, a guy named Colin tried to fight a landscaping fine. He brought photos, contractor quotes, and a signed letter from a board-certified arborist. The minutes said he was unprepared and argumentative. His fine doubled. That is when I started sending everything certified mail. Not to the HOA post office box, to the management company directly, with tracking numbers and delivery confirmation. Tiffany can manipulate the minutes, but she cannot manipulate the postal service. I have 15 certified letters in my folder, 15 proofs of cure, 15 violations that should have been closed. Instead, I have $900 in fines and a lien threat. My phone buzzes. It is a text from my mother asking if I can cover her heating bill this month. I look at the fine notice on my desk. $250. That is the heating bill plus groceries. I text back that I will send the money tomorrow, and then I open my email and start drafting a formal records complaint. The complaint is simple. I cite Vermont's Homeowners Association Act, Section 1126(3), which requires the HOA to maintain accurate records and provide copies to homeowners upon request. I attach a spreadsheet listing every violation, every cure, every certified mail tracking number, and every fine. I request a full audit of the winter enforcement records. I CC the management company, the HOA board president, and the State Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. I do not send it yet. Sending it now would tip Tiffany off, and I need her to escalate one more time. I need her to do something so blatant that even the board cannot ignore it. I finish my coffee. I go back outside. The mail carrier is trying to navigate the snowbank in front of the cluster mailboxes, slipping on the ice chunks and muttering under her breath. Her name is Angela, and she has been delivering mail in this neighborhood for 8 years. She sees me and shakes her head. "They hit you again," she says. "Yep." "You know she took a photo of your car yesterday, right?" Angela says. "I saw her. She was leaning over your hood with her phone out." I nod. "I saw the photo this morning. Tiffany included it in the violation notice as evidence of unauthorized commercial activity. The invoice on my passenger seat apparently counts as advertising, even though it is inside my private vehicle and not visible unless you press your face against the glass." "She is going to say you are running a business out of your car," Angela says. "That is her new thing. She hit the guy in Unit 12 last week because he had a toolbox in his truck bed." "What did she fine him for?" I ask. "Unlicensed contractor activity," Angela says. "He is a plumber. He works for the city." She did not care. Angela adjusts her mail bag and steps carefully around the ice chunks. "Did you file a complaint yet?" she asks. "Working on it," I say. "Good," she says, because she is about to get worse. I heard her on the phone yesterday talking about a compliance squad. She is bringing volunteers. I laugh, but Angela does not. She is serious. "Volunteers," I say. 2 of them, Angela says. She called them enforcement liaisons. They are going to do sidewalk inspections starting next week. That is not a real thing, I say. It is now, Angela says, and she keeps walking, her boots crunching through the snow. I go back inside and pull up the HOA bylaws. There is no provision for enforcement liaisons. There is no compliance squad. Tiffany is making it up, which means she is about to deploy people with clipboards and reflective vests to harass residents over snow that the HOA Plow created. I add a note to my complaint draft. Unauthorized enforcement activity. Harassment. Intimidation. Then my phone rings. It is the property management company. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, I listen to the message. Mr. Hayes, this is Dana from Cedar Point Property Management. We received a concern from Miss Kelly regarding your vehicle. She states that you are operating a commercial snow removal service from your residence in violation of the residential use only covenant. We need you to provide documentation that you are not engaged in prohibited business activity. Please submit a notarized affidavit and proof of employment by end of business Friday. Failure to comply will result in a hearing and potential fines. I play the message again. Notarized affidavit. Proof of employment. By Friday. Today is Tuesday. I call the management company back. Dana answers on the second ring. This is Marcus Hayes in Unit 31, I say. I just got your message about the commercial activity complaint. Yes, Mr. Hayes, Dana says. We need that documentation by Friday. I am a freelance photographer, I say. I do not run a snow removal service. The invoice Miss Kelly photographed was from a plow company I hired to clear my driveway after the January storm. It is a receipt, not advertising. Miss Kelly states that the invoice was visible from the street and constitutes solicitation, Dana says. It was inside my car, I say, on the passenger seat, with the doors locked and the windows up. Dana pauses. Mr. Hayes, I am just relaying the complaint. If you believe it is without merit, you can dispute it at the next board meeting. The next board meeting is in March, I say. The fine will be issued before then. Then you should submit the affidavit, Dana says. I do not need an affidavit to prove I am not doing something I am not doing, I say. Miss Kelly has provided photographic evidence, Dana says. The burden of proof is on you. I hang up. I look at my complaint draft. I add another line. Retaliatory enforcement. False accusations. Abuse of process. Then I look at the photo Tiffany took. I zoom in. The metadata is visible in the file properties. The photo was taken at 11:43 yesterday morning. The violation notice says the infraction occurred at 8:15 yesterday morning, which is when the plow service left the invoice on my seat after clearing my driveway. Tiffany took the photo 3.5 hours after the supposed infraction. That gap matters, because the violation notice claims I was actively advertising at the time of observation. But the timestamp proves the invoice was sitting there for hours, unnoticed, until Tiffany decided to walk past my car and make it a problem. I screenshot the metadata. I add it to my folder. Then I go to the HOA website and pull up the meeting minutes from the last 6 months. I compare them to the audio recordings I made on my phone during the meetings. The discrepancies are immediate. In November, I objected to a fine for snow piling. The minutes say I did not attend the meeting. In December, Colin objected to his landscaping fine. The minutes say he was belligerent and refused to provide evidence. The audio recording shows him calmly presenting photos and receipts, while Tiffany interrupted him 6 times. The minutes are fiction. Tiffany writes what she wants the record to say, and the board signs off without listening to the recordings. I add the audio files to my folder. Then I send a text to Colin. "Did you keep copies of the stuff you brought to the December meeting?" I ask. He responds in 30 seconds. "Yeah, why?" "I need to borrow them," I say. "I am filing a complaint." "About time," Colin says. "Come by tonight." I spend the rest of the afternoon editing photos for a client. Around 5, I walk over to Colin's unit. He is in his late 50s, retired from state government, and angrier than I have ever seen him. "She is a liar," he says, handing me a folder thick with documents. "She lied to my face and then lied in the minutes. I had everything she asked for. She did not care." I flip through the folder. Photos of his yard. Contractor quotes. The arborist letter. A receipt showing he paid for the tree trimming 2 weeks before the fine was issued. Everything is dated, signed, and notarized. This should have closed the case, I say. "It should have," Colin says. "Instead, she doubled the fine and threatened a lien. I paid it because I cannot afford a lawsuit." "How much?" I ask. $1,200, Colin says. I close the folder. "I am not paying," I say. "Good," Colin says. "Burn her down." I take the folder home. I scan everything. I add it to my complaint. Then I draft an email to the board president, a guy named Hector who lives on the other side of the neighborhood and rarely shows up to meetings. The email is polite. It explains that I have documentation of procedural irregularities and requests a private meeting before I file a formal complaint. I send it at 8. Hector responds at 8:30. "Meet me at the clubhouse tomorrow at 6, he says. "Bring everything." The next morning, Tiffany shows up at my door with her compliance squad. I hear the knock at 7. I open the door, and there are 3 people standing on my porch. Tiffany is in the middle, flanked by 2 volunteers in reflective vests. They are holding clipboards. The vests say Harborview Cold Front Landing Association in vinyl letters across the back. "Good morning, Marcus," Tiffany says. "This is Rachel and Steve. They are helping me conduct sidewalk compliance inspections this week." Rachel is in her 60s, wearing a parka and holding a pen like a weapon. Steve is younger, maybe 40, and he looks uncomfortable. Neither of them makes eye contact with me. "We are here to document your ongoing ice remediation failure," Tiffany says. "Per the winter addendum, you are required to maintain a slip-free walking surface at all times." "I shoveled yesterday," I say. "After you left." Tiffany shakes her head. "There are still visible ice patches." "Rachel, can you document that?" Rachel writes something on her clipboard. Steve shifts his weight and looks at the ground. "Where?" I ask. Tiffany points at a spot near my mailbox. There is a patch of ice the size of a postage stamp, barely visible under a dusting of fresh snow. "That is from meltwater runoff," I say. "It formed overnight." "Nevertheless, it is a violation," Tiffany says. "You are being issued a second notice. The fine is $500. She hands me a new violation form already filled out. "The fine is due in 7 days. "You cannot fine me twice for the same sidewalk," I say. "This is a separate infraction," Tiffany says. "Ongoing noncompliance." I look at Rachel. She is still writing. I look at Steve. He is staring at his boots. "How much are they paying you to do this?" I ask. "This is volunteer service," Tiffany says. "Does the board know you are doing this?" I ask. "The board authorized enhanced enforcement," Tiffany says. "We can tow first and explain later. That is how enforcement works." She turns to Rachel. Make sure you photograph the mailbox area. We will need it for the hearing. Rachel pulls out a phone and takes 3 photos. Tiffany watches me, waiting for a reaction. I do not give her one. I close the door. I watch through the window as Tiffany and her squad move to the next unit. They knock. They inspect. They document. They are hitting every townhouse on the street. By 9, my phone is blowing up. Text messages from neighbors asking what is happening. A group chat I did not know existed suddenly has 43 unread messages. Everyone is getting violation notices. Everyone is being fined. The amounts vary, but the pattern is the same. Ice patches, snow piling, improper shoveling, inadequate salting. One neighbor, a woman named Trish, sends a photo of her notice. The fine is $350 for failing to remove icicles from her gutter. The icicles, she points out, are on the back of her unit, facing the woods. No one can see them unless they trespass into the common area behind her fence. Another neighbor, a guy named Paul, reports that Tiffany measured his snow pile with a tape measure and cited him for exceeding the 2-foot height limit. His pile is 26 inches. The fine is $200. The group chat is chaos. People are panicking. Some are talking about paying. Others are talking about lawyers. One guy suggests we all stop paying and force the HOA to foreclose. Someone else points out that foreclosure will destroy everyone's credit and leave the neighborhood in receivership. I type one message. Meet me at the clubhouse tonight at 7. I have something you need to see. Then I go back to my folder and finalize the complaint. At 6, I meet Hector at the clubhouse. He is a tall guy with gray hair and the permanent expression of someone who regrets volunteering for anything. He sits down at one of the folding tables, and I hand him the folder. This is everything, I say. Certified mail receipts. Proof of cure. Audio recordings. Meeting minutes that do not match the recordings. Comparison photos showing selective enforcement. Hector flips through the folder slowly. He stops at the metadata screenshot showing Tiffany's photo timestamp. She lied about the time, he says. Yes. He keeps reading. When he gets to Colin's documents, he closes the folder and rubs his face. How long has this been going on? He asks. Since November, I say. Maybe longer. Colin paid $1,200 in fines for violations he had already cured. I have $900 in fines for the same thing. Trish just got hit for icicles no one can see. Paul got fined for snow that is 4 inches too tall. Hector is quiet for a long time. Then he says, I did not know. You signed the minutes, I say. I signed what she gave me, Hector says. I did not listen to the recordings. I thought people were just complaining. They were complaining because she was lying, I say. Hector opens the folder again. He pulls out the audio file timestamps. What do you want me to do? He asks. I want you to call an emergency meeting, I say. I want you to suspend enforcement until we audit the process. I want you to reverse the fines that were issued after people cured their violations. And I want Tiffany removed from compliance authority. Hector looks at me. I cannot do that without a board vote. Then call a vote. I say. She is on the board. Hector says. Then you need 3 votes, I say. How many board members are there? 5, Hector says. Me, Tiffany, and 3 others. 2 of them do not show up. 1 always votes with Tiffany. So you need 1 more vote, I say. Hector nods. The problem is that the board meets once a month. The next meeting is not until March 15th. That is 3 weeks, I say. She is going to fine everyone into bankruptcy by then. I know, Hector says, but I cannot call an emergency meeting without majority support. Then get majority support, I say. Hector stands up. He takes the folder. Let me make some calls. I leave the clubhouse and walk home. At 7, people start showing up. Trish, Paul, Colin, Angela the mail carrier, and about 15 others. We cram into my living room. I pull up the comparison photos on my laptop and project them onto the wall using a spare camera rig. This is my sidewalk, I say, pointing to the first photo. 2 weeks ago. Ice patch the size of a dinner plate. Fine, $100. I click to the next photo. This is Unit 17. Same day. Same storm, ice patch the size of a coffee table. No fine. I click through 12 photos. Every one shows a worse violation than mine. None of them were fined. She is targeting people, Trish says. Yes, I say. And she is manipulating the records to cover it up. I play a clip from the December meeting. Colin's voice is calm and measured. Tiffany interrupts him 6 times. The audio is clear. Then I pull up the meeting minutes. They say Colin was argumentative and unprepared. That is not what happened, Colin says. I know, I say. She is rewriting the meetings. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button now, because this story gets so much worse before it gets better. Paul raises his hand. What do? He asks. We file complaints, I say. Every one of us. We request a records audit. We demand accurate minutes. We force the board to act. What if they do not? Someone asks. Then we go to the state, I say. Vermont has a homeowners association ombudsman. If the HOA is violating the law, the state can intervene. People are nodding. Trish pulls out her phone and starts typing. Paul asks for a copy of my complaint template. Within 20 minutes, everyone in the room is drafting their own complaint. Then my phone buzzes. It is a text from Hector. Emergency meeting approved for Friday night. 7 p.m. Be ready. I show the group. There is applause. We have 2 days, I say. Do not send your complaints yet. Wait until after the meeting. If we send them now, Tiffany will know we are coordinating, and she will change her strategy. We need her to walk into that meeting thinking she still has control. Everyone agrees. We spend the next hour organizing. Trish volunteers to collect evidence from anyone who did not attend tonight. Paul offers to record the meeting on his phone as a backup. Colin says he will bring his landscaping documents in case Tiffany tries to claim his case was handled properly. By 9, the group disperses. I sit alone in my living room staring at the complaint draft on my screen. I add one more line. Pattern of abuse, systematic fraud, retaliation. Then I save it and go to bed. Thursday is quiet. Too quiet. No compliance squad. No violation notices. No emails from the management company. Tiffany is either regrouping or she knows something is coming. I spend the day reviewing my evidence and preparing for the meeting. I print copies of everything. Certified mail receipts, audio timestamps, comparison photos, metadata screenshots. I organize it all into a binder with tabs and page numbers. At noon, I get an email from Dana at the management company. Subject line: Urgent compliance matter. I open it. The email says that due to escalating winter violations, The HOA board is implementing an emergency snow removal surcharge. All homeowners will be assessed a one-time fee of $350 to cover enhanced enforcement and plow service upgrades. The fee is due by February 28th. Failure to pay will result in a lien. I forward the email to Hector. He responds immediately. I did not approve this. I text back. Tiffany is trying to lock in the money before the meeting. Hector calls me. She cannot do this, he says. She does not have unilateral authority to impose fees. She just did. I say. Hector swears. I am going to shut this down. Meet me at the management company office tomorrow at 10. Bring your evidence. I hang up and forward the email to the group chat. The response is instant. People are furious. Some are threatening to sue. Others are talking about withholding dues. One guy says he is going to report Tiffany to the Attorney General tonight. I type one message. Do not do anything until after the meeting tomorrow. We go in together, or we do not go at all. The chat goes quiet. Friday morning, I meet Hector at the management company office. Dana is there, along with another board member named Susan, who rarely speaks at meetings. We sit in a conference room with a window overlooking the parking lot. I can see my car from here. The plow service invoice is still on the passenger seat. Hector opens the meeting. Dana, did you send out the snow removal surcharge email, he asks. Yes, Dana says. Per Miss Kelly's request. Did the board vote on it? Hector asks. Miss Kelly stated it was an emergency action, Dana says. That is not an answer, Hector says. Did the board vote? Dana looks uncomfortable. No. Miss Kelly said she would bring it to a vote after the fact. Hector turns to Susan. Did you know about this? Susan shakes her head. I found out yesterday when someone forwarded me the email. So Tiffany authorized a $350 fee without board approval, Hector says. Dana nods slowly. Hector pulls out his phone and starts typing. I am sending a retraction email, he says. The fee is canceled. Any homeowner who already paid will be refunded. Dana looks relieved. I will process that today. Good, Hector says. Now Marcus has some concerns about enforcement procedures. I want you to hear them. I open my binder. I walk Dana and Susan through everything. The certified mail receipts, the audio recordings, the metadata screenshot, the comparison photos. By the time I finish, Susan is staring at the table and Dana is taking notes. This is a serious problem, Susan says. It is fraud, Hector says. Dana closes her notebook. I will need to escalate this to our legal team. Do that, Hector says. In the meantime, all enforcement actions are suspended until further notice. What about tonight's meeting? Dana asks. It is still happening, Hector says. And Marcus is going to present his findings. Dana looks at me. You are going to have a full house. Word got out. Good, I say. That night I arrive at the clubhouse at 6:30. The parking lot is already full. I count 30 cars. Inside, every chair is taken. People are standing along the walls. Trish and Paul have saved me a seat in the front row. Colin is sitting behind me with his folder. Tiffany is at the board table, wearing her white belted wool coat and blue knit hat even though we are indoors. She has her rubber gloves folded on the table in front of her. Rachel and Steve, the compliance squad volunteers, are sitting in the back, looking even more uncomfortable than before. Hector calls the meeting to order at 7. He reads the agenda. First item, Winter Enforcement Review. Tiffany stands up. Before we begin, I want to address the misinformation that has been circulating this week. Some residents have made baseless accusations about the compliance process. I want to assure everyone that all enforcement actions have been conducted in accordance with HOA bylaws and state law. Hector interrupts. Miss Kelly, please sit down. Mr. Hayes has the floor. I stand up. I walk to the front of the room. I set my binder on the board table and open it to the first tab. In November, I received a violation notice for improper snow piling, I say. I cured the violation within 48 hours and sent proof via certified mail to the management company. I was fined anyway. Here is the certified mail receipt showing delivery on November 18th. Here is the fine notice dated November 22nd, 4 days after the HOA received my proof of cure. I slide the documents across the table. Hector picks them up. Tiffany does not move. In December, I received a violation for ice accumulation. I continue. I salted the area and sent photos via certified mail. I was fined anyway. Here is the receipt. Here is the fine notice. I slide more documents across the table. Susan leans over to look. Tiffany crosses her arms. This happened 7 more times between December and February, I say. Every time, I cured the violation. Every time, I sent proof. Every time, I was fined. The HOA received my corrections and chose to ignore them. Tiffany stands up. Mr. Hayes, your so-called corrections were inadequate. The bylaws require full compliance, not partial efforts. I turn to her. Then why did you accept my certified mail and issue fines anyway? If my corrections were inadequate, you should have sent them back or requested additional action. Instead, you cashed my checks and kept fining me. The room is silent. Tiffany sits down. I flip to the next tab. This is a comparison photo set. 12 sidewalks in this neighborhood, all photographed on the same day as my violation. Every one of them has worse ice or snow accumulation than mine. None of them were fined. I hold up the photos. People in the audience lean forward. Trish stands up and points to one of the images. That is my sidewalk, she says. I was not fined until this week. Exactly, I say. Enforcement is selective. Miss Kelly is targeting specific residents while ignoring identical violations elsewhere. Tiffany stands again. Those properties were not reported. By who, I ask? You are the one doing the inspections. Tiffany does not answer. I flip to the audio tab. I have recordings of the last 3 board meetings, I say. The minutes do not match the recordings. In December, Colin objected to a landscaping fine and provided extensive documentation. The minutes say he was unprepared and argumentative. The audio shows he was calm and thorough, and that Miss Kelly interrupted him 6 times. I press play on my phone. Colin's voice fills the room, steady and polite. Tiffany's voice cuts in, sharp and dismissive. The recording runs for 2 minutes. When it ends, the room is silent. The minutes are false, I say. Hector looks at Tiffany. Do you have an explanation for this? Tiffany stands. The minutes are summaries. They are not transcripts. They are fiction, I say. And they are being used to justify fines that should have been dismissed. Susan speaks up. Mr. Hayes, do you have any other evidence? I flip to the final tab. Yes. This is a metadata screenshot from the violation photo Miss Kelly took of my car. She claims the infraction occurred at 8:15 in the morning. The photo timestamp shows she took the picture at 11:43, more than 3 hours later. She fabricated the timeline to make it look like I was actively advertising. when in fact the invoice had been sitting there all morning without incident. I slide the screenshot across the table. Hector picks it up and studies it. Then he looks at Tiffany. "Miss Kelly, did you alter the timeline?" he asks. Tiffany does not answer. She is staring at the table, her hands gripping the edge. Hector stands. "Based on this evidence, I am calling for an immediate suspension of all enforcement actions pending a full audit. I am also recommending that the board vote to remove Miss Kelly from compliance authority." Tiffany's head snaps up. "You cannot do that." "I can," Hector says. "And I just did. Susan, do you second?" Susan nods. "I second." Hector looks at the other board members. The vote is 3-1. Tiffany is the only dissent. The room erupts in applause. Tiffany stands, grabs her gloves, and walks out. Rachel and Steve follow her. The door slams behind them. Hector waits for the noise to die down. The audit will begin Monday. All fines issued since November will be reviewed. Any fines that were assessed after proof of cure will be refunded. Residents who paid under protest will receive full reimbursements within 30 days. More applause. Paul stands up and shakes my hand. Trish hugs me. Colin grins and raises his folder in the air. Hector looks at me. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for bringing this forward." I nod. "I just want to be clear about one thing. The records request statute requires the HOA to respond within 10 business days. If the audit is not completed by then, I will file a formal complaint with the state ombudsman." Hector smiles. "Understood. We will have answers by the deadline." The meeting adjourns. People linger, talking and comparing notes. Someone suggests we start a neighborhood association separate from the HOA. Someone else suggests we recall the entire board and start over. I stay out of it. I have done my part. By the time I get home, it is 9:30. I sit down at my desk and open my email. There are 6 new messages. 4 are from neighbors thanking me. 1 is from Dana confirming the audit schedule. The last one is from Tiffany. Subject line: "You made a mistake." I delete it without reading. Saturday morning, I wake up to a noise outside. I look out the window and see a tow truck in the parking lot. The driver is hooking up my car. I throw on my coat and run outside. The driver is a guy in his 40s with a clipboard and a bored expression. "What are you doing?" I ask. "Towing your vehicle," he says. "Unpaid fines." "I paid my fines," I say. "Not according to this," he says, and he shows me the clipboard. It is a work order from the HOA authorizing the tow. The amount owed is listed as $950. "That is wrong," I say. "The fines were suspended." The driver shrugs. "I just do what the paperwork says." "You want to dispute it? Call the HOA." I pull out my phone and call Hector. He answers on the first ring. "Tiffany just sent a tow truck," I say. "What?" Hector says. "She is towing my car. The work order says I have unpaid fines." Hector swears. "I will call the management company. Do not let them take the car." "Too late," I say. "The hook is already on." Hector hangs up. I turn to the driver. "You need to stop." "I cannot stop," the driver says. "The order is signed." "By who?" I ask. He shows me the signature. It is Tiffany's. "She does not have authority to do this," I say. The driver shrugs again. "Then you need to sort that out with her. I am just the tow guy." He gets in the truck. I step in front of it. "You are not taking my car," I say. "Sir, I will call the police if you do not move," the driver says. "Call them," I say. He does. 10 minutes later, a Burlington PD cruiser pulls into the parking lot. The officer is a woman in her 30s with a no-nonsense expression. She listens to the driver, then listens to me. "Do you have proof that the fines were suspended?" she asks. I pull up the email from Dana on my phone. The officer reads it. Then she looks at the driver. "The order is invalid," she says. "Release the vehicle." The driver argues for a minute, but the officer does not budge. Finally, he unhooks my car and drives away. The officer turns to me. "You are going to want to document this. File a police report for attempted wrongful repossession." I do. Right there in the parking lot. The officer takes my statement, photographs the hook marks on my bumper, and gives me a case number. By noon, the story is all over the group chat. Tiffany tried to tow my car after the board suspended her authority. People are calling it retaliation. Someone suggests we file a restraining order. Someone else suggests we report her to the state attorney general. Hector calls me at 1. I just got off the phone with the management company. Dana is terminating Tiffany's access to the enforcement system. She cannot issue any more work orders. Good, I say. I am also recommending the board vote to remove her from the board entirely, Hector says. The vote will happen at the next regular meeting. When is that, I ask. March 15th, Hector says. 2 weeks. What happens in the meantime? I ask. She stays on the board but has no authority, Hector says. If she tries anything else, call the police. I hang up and sit down at my desk. My hands are shaking. I look at the fine notices on my desk. $250. $500, $100. All suspended. All under review. All about to be refunded. But Tiffany is still on the board. And she just tried to tow my car. I open my complaint draft. I add a new section. Retaliation. Wrongful repossession attempt. Abuse of authority. Then I attach the police report and hit send. The complaint goes to the management company, the board, and the state ombudsman. I CC Angela, the mail carrier, because she has been a witness to half of this. I CC Colin and Trish and Paul because they are part of the pattern. I CC the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division because Tiffany's actions are starting to look criminal. By Monday morning, the audit begins. Dana calls me and asks for copies of my certified mail receipts. I send everything. She calls back an hour later. Mr. Hayes, we have confirmed that you cured every violation within the required time frame. All fines issued after your proofs of cure were received are being reversed. You will receive a refund check within 10 business days. Thank you, I say. We are also reviewing enforcement actions against 11 other residents, Dana says. Preliminary findings suggest a pattern of selective enforcement and procedural violations. What does that mean, I ask. It means Miss Kelly is in serious trouble, Dana says. The audit takes 3 days. On Wednesday, Dana sends an email to all homeowners. Subject line: Winter Enforcement Review Results. The email is long, but the summary is clear. 15 residents were fined after curing their violations. Total fines assessed $11,400. Total refunds due $11,400. The email also states that the board has voted to adopt new enforcement procedures requiring photographic evidence, timestamp documentation, and third-party verification before any fines are issued. Tiffany's compliance squad is disbanded. Rachel and Steve are no longer authorized to conduct inspections. The email ends with a sentence that makes me smile. The board extends its apologies to affected residents and commits to transparent, equitable enforcement moving forward. I forward the email to my mother. She calls me immediately. "You won," she says. "Not yet," I say. "Tiffany is still on the board." "Not for long," my mother says. She is right. On March 15th, the board meets again. This time, the clubhouse is even more packed. Hector calls for a vote to remove Tiffany from the board. The vote is 4-1. Tiffany is the only dissent. She stands up, grabs her coat, and leaves without a word. The room erupts. People are cheering. Someone starts a slow clap. Paul and Colin shake my hand. Trish hugs me again. Angela, the mail carrier, gives me a thumbs up from the back row. Hector bangs the gavel. We have one more item. The board has received a formal complaint from Mr. Hayes alleging systematic fraud and procedural abuse. The complaint has been forwarded to the state ombudsman for investigation. More applause. Hector waits for it to die down. In the meantime, the board is implementing a public records policy. All meeting audio will be posted online within 48 hours. All enforcement actions will be documented with photographic evidence and timestamps. All fines will include a clear appeals process with third-party review. The changes are unanimous. The meeting adjourns. I walk home in the cold, my breath making clouds in the air. The streetlights are on, casting long shadows on the snow. My car is parked in front of my unit. No hook marks, no tow notice, no violation sticker. 2 weeks later, I receive a check from the management company. $950. Full refund. The memo line says, "Winter enforcement reversal." I deposit the check and send half to my mother. She calls me that night. "You did good," she says. "I just followed the rules," I say. "No," she says. "You made them follow the rules. That is different." A week after that, I get another email from Dana. The state ombudsman has completed a preliminary review and found sufficient evidence of procedural violations to warrant a formal investigation. The HOA is required to submit all enforcement records, meeting minutes, and financial documents from the past 2 years. Tiffany has been subpoenaed to testify. The group chat explodes. People are celebrating. Someone suggests we throw a party. Someone else suggests we rename the neighborhood. I stay quiet. I have done what I needed to do. The rest is up to the state. In April, the ombudsman releases a report. It is 23 pages long and it confirms everything. Selective enforcement. False meeting minutes. Retaliatory fines. Unauthorized work orders. The report recommends that the HOA implement mandatory training for all board members, adopt a transparent appeals process, and conduct annual audits of enforcement actions. It also recommends that Tiffany be permanently banned from serving on any HOA board in Vermont. The board adopts all recommendations. Tiffany does not appeal. In May, I receive a letter from the management company. The HOA is issuing a written correction to every homeowner, retracting all winter violations issued between November and February. The letter includes an apology and a commitment to fair enforcement. It is signed by Hector and the entire board. I pin the letter to my wall next to my desk. By June, the neighborhood is different. People are talking to each other again. The group chat is full of photos and jokes instead of panic and complaints. Someone organizes a block party. Someone else starts a community garden on the common area behind the clubhouse. Tiffany moves out in July. I see the moving truck from my window. She does not say goodbye to anyone. In August, a new board is elected. Hector stays on as president. Susan stays on as secretary. 3 new members join, all of them focused on transparency and fairness. The first thing they do is post all meeting audio online, going back 2 years. The second thing they do is eliminate all compliance squad positions. The third thing they do is cap fines at $50 for first-time violations, with mandatory warnings and cure periods. The neighborhood becomes livable again. In September, I get a call from a reporter at the Burlington Free Press. She is writing a story about HOA abuse in Vermont and wants to interview me. I agree. The story runs in October. It is titled, "How One Homeowner Took on His HOA and Won." The article includes quotes from Colin, Trish, and Paul. It includes excerpts from the Ombudsman report. It includes a photo of me standing in front of my townhouse, holding my camera gear. The story goes viral. I get emails from people in other states asking for advice. Some of them are fighting their own HOAs. Some of them are dealing with similar fraud and retaliation. I send them copies of my complaint template and tell them to document everything. By November, I have paid off my mother's heating bill, her medical bills, and her property taxes. I have money in savings again. My photography business is growing. I book 3 weddings and 2 corporate shoots. I buy a new lens. In December, I shovel my sidewalk every morning before 7. I salt the ice patches. I photograph the compliance. No one finds me. On Christmas Eve, I walk to the clubhouse for the neighborhood potluck. The parking lot is full. Inside, people are laughing and eating and talking. Hector waves me over. "We did it," he says. "You did it," I say. "No," Hector says. "You started it. We just finished it." I look around the room. Trish is talking to Angela. Colin is helping Paul set up folding chairs. Susan is refilling the coffee pot. The laminated quiet hours notice is gone from the bulletin board. In its place is a sign that says, "Community over compliance." I stay for an hour, then walk home. The snow is falling softly, coating the sidewalks in a fresh layer of white. My car is parked in front of my unit. No hook marks, no tow notice, no violation sticker. I go inside and sit down at my desk. I open my email. There are 3 new messages. 2 are from clients. 1 is from the state ombudsman. Subject line, "Final report." I open it. The report confirms that the HOA violated Vermont Homeowners Association law by engaging in selective enforcement, falsifying records, and retaliating against residents who objected to fines. The report recommends that the HOA be placed on probation for 2 years and subject to quarterly audits. It also recommends that Tiffany be fined $5,000 for abuse of authority and banned from serving on any HOA board in the state. The recommendations are adopted. The probation begins in January. I close the email and look out the window. The snow is still falling. The streetlights are on. The neighborhood is quiet. I made it. I open my desk drawer and pull out the violation notices. I stack them neatly. Then I shred them, one by one, until nothing is left but confetti. In February, I attend my first board meeting as a regular homeowner with no complaints, no fines, and no violations. The meeting is boring. Hector reads the budget report. Susan reads the minutes. The new board members discuss landscaping bids and snow removal contracts. No one yells. No one lies. No one threatens to tow anyone's car. At the end of the meeting, Hector asks if anyone has new business. I raise my hand. "I just want to say thank you," I say. "A year ago, this neighborhood was a nightmare. You changed that." Hector nods. "We all changed it. But you started it." The room applauds. I sit down. After the meeting, I walk home. The sidewalks are clear. The ice is gone. Spring is coming. I sit down at my desk and open my laptop. I have a new project. A photo series documenting neighborhood life in Burlington. Real moments. Real people. No violations. No fines. Just community. I scroll through my recent shots. A kid building a snowman. A couple walking their dog. Angela delivering mail with a smile. The community garden starting to thaw. This is what I moved here for. In March, I get a call from a law firm in Montpelier. They are representing 3 homeowners in a class action lawsuit against their HOA for fraud and selective enforcement. They want to use my case as a precedent. I agree. I send them everything. The certified mail receipts, the audio recordings, the metadata screenshots, the police report, the ombudsman report. The lawsuit settles in June. The homeowners receive full refunds plus damages. The HOA is placed on probation and required to adopt the same reforms that Harborview Cold Front Landing implemented. The attorney calls me to say thank you. You set the standard, she says. I just followed the rules, I say. Exactly, she says. That is what they were afraid of. In July, I book my first national client. A magazine wants photos of small-town Vermont life. I spend 2 weeks driving around the state, photographing farms and main streets and covered bridges. I sell 12 prints. The magazine runs a full spread. My mother calls me the day the issue comes out. I am so proud of you, she says. Thanks, Mom, I say. You stood up to them, she says. You did not back down. I just wanted to pay my bills, I say. You did more than that, she says. You made them accountable. I hang up and look at the magazine spread on my desk. My name is in the credits. My work is on the page. My life is moving forward. In August, the neighborhood holds its 2nd annual block party. This time, there are no violation notices, no compliance squads, no clipboards. Just neighbors grilling burgers and playing cornhole and letting their kids run around. I bring my camera. I take photos of everything. Trish laughing with Angela, Colin showing Paul his new grill, Hector talking to Susan about next year's budget. At the end of the night, someone sets up a projector and plays a slideshow of neighborhood photos from the past year. My shots are in the mix. The snowstorm, the meetings, the clubhouse, the refund checks. The slideshow ends with a photo I took last month. It is a wide shot of the neighborhood at sunset. The streetlights just coming on, the snow finally gone, the sidewalks clear. The caption says, "We did this together." The crowd applauds. I stand in the back, holding my camera, watching the neighbors celebrate. This is home. That night, I walk back to my unit. The air is warm. The sky is clear. The stars are out. I sit on my porch and look at the neighborhood. No tow trucks. No clipboards. No rubber gloves snapping on for intimidation. Just people living their lives. I pull out my phone and open the group chat. Someone has posted a photo from tonight. It is me, standing in the back, holding my camera, smiling. The caption says, "To Marcus, who started it all." I close the phone and sit in the quiet. A year ago, I was one violation notice away from losing everything. Now, I have a business, a community, and proof that standing up works. I did not do it alone. Hector called the meeting. Susan voted for the audit. Colin shared his documents. Trish rallied the neighbors. Paul recorded the backup audio. Angela witnessed the harassment. But I filed the complaint. I gathered the proof. I stood in front of the board and said, "This is wrong." And they listened. Not because I was loud, not because I was right, but because I had evidence, and I forced them to look at it. That is the lesson. Document everything. Send it certified. Keep the receipts. Record the meetings. Take the photos. Build the case. And when they try to bury you, bring the receipts to the surface and make them explain. Tiffany thought she could manipulate the system because no one was paying attention. She thought the minutes were enough. She thought the fines would scare people into silence. She was wrong. The system works when you make it work. The rules apply when you force them to apply. Accountability happens when you demand it. I sit on my porch until the streetlights go off at midnight. Then I go inside, lock the door, and go to bed. Tomorrow, I have a shoot in the morning, a family portrait at a farm in Shelburne. After that, I am editing photos for a corporate client in Burlington. After that, I am sending my mother another check. This is my life now. No violations. No fines. No compliance squads. Just work. Just community. Just forward. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.